The Federal Reserve is making loans cheaper. The federal funds rate is currently around 4.11%. By the end of 2026, this rate is expected to fall below 3.5%. Wall Street is excited, but middle-class Americans aren't likely to benefit much from this decline in interest rates.
Low rate and high liquidity environments benefit the guys who have money in markets, benefit the guys who already have the wealth.
The top 0.1%, they have seen their wealth nearly double since 2020 to over $23 trillion. Stocks accounted for virtually all of that growth.
Most Americans own stocks. However, older and wealthier Americans generally own more of them than everyone else. As a result, they benefit from the asset price booms that tend to follow Fed rate cuts.
Individuals who were exposed to the private equity market, the private credit market, they've been able to just make bank.
It's really important to own financial assets. If you have all of your money sitting in a savings account, odds are after time, you're going to find yourself being stretched more and more thinly.
You know, people just need to come to realization that the money game has completely shifted. It really has. Listen, I grew up broke and poor, and I just had a conversation with my friend about this because it was really interesting. And we're talking about how when we were growing up, everyone was telling you to just work hard. The harder you work, the more you get rewarded, right? That's what everyone was telling you to do, right? You give up your time for money. That's all you had to do. So I quickly recognized the older I got, that wasn't the case. And we chuckle about it because we're like, yo, completely wrong. That information that they were giving to us was completely wrong. It worked for them, but it didn't work for us. The way now to build wealth, guys, is investing. There is no other way. All these games that people are playing and, oh, you need to save this. No. You need to put your money in the market and have it working. That's the only true way to build wealth. Now we have the information. I used to blame my parents and the schools for not giving me the financial literacy. But now I have it. Now it's available. What am I going to do with it? I'm going to use it to my advantage. That's what you need to do. Really, that's what we all need to do and recognize this is what this money game is about. Rather than sitting in the sidelines and saying it's rigged, it's not rigged. You have to have the discipline to put money and consistently put money in the market and watch it grow. And be patient and see what happens. A lot of us don't have patience. People who build wealth, there's one sign that is completely just starts flashing. When you see them, you should know. Not that they're greedy or they're crooks. None of that. What should be flashing is the fact of that person's extremely disciplined. The person that's completely cut, right? Bam. He's completely disciplined. Going to the gym and with his diet. Your wealth, it comes from discipline. Now, a lot of people who don't lack discipline, they will get eaten alive in this market thinking working 40, 50 hours a week is the way to build wealth. Or picking a side hustle, doing Uber Eats and DoorDash is the way to build wealth. That's the way to bring in some income. But the things that you do with your income and where you put your income is really, really important. Let's keep on watching.
As the Fed gears up for a rate cut, we ask, are they helping or hurting the typical family? The cost to borrow money will likely fall over the next year, according to the Fed's forecast.
We do have a very good sense of the direction the Fed wants to head in, and that is lower rates. If you look at the Fed projections, maybe we're looking at closer to 3% of an overnight rate in a couple of years, and that really sets the floor for all other interest rates.
Lowering this rate sets off a series of chain reactions in the economy. For example, your savings accounts may earn less money on interest after Fed rate cuts. That said, you also might pay less interest on your credit card debt. These moves also create conditions that can make it cheaper to finance cars, student loans, homes, and more.
It really is sort of a flywheel for all other economic activity. And that's why you start to see, I think, financial investors get excited for lower rates.
Now, listen, I hate information like this because it makes it seem that that's what the middle class should only do. That's what it's perpetrating. It's basically telling you if the Fed rates drop, you hide your savings account, right? It will drop as well. Or it could go up, if the rates go up. Or if it drops, you could borrow for cheaper. Stop with this borrowing thing. That's the reason why so many people are into so much trouble. They're continuously using their credit cards, getting into so much debt. That's what I did. All I did was use my credit card and got myself into so much debt until I realized this is not helping me. This is not what the wealthy people do. You see, wealthy people use credit cards the right way for rewards and points. And at the end of the month, they pay off the balance. So the interest rate doesn't matter to them at all because they're not paying interest. They're paying zero interest because they're paying the full balance. You're paying all this money for a car that you can't afford because the rates drop. That's what gets people into so much trouble. You see, wealthy people not thinking like that, right? They're not worrying about the rates dropping here and there. I mean, they probably are for like huge leveraging, stuff like that. Yeah. But not worrying about car loans and stuff. That's a problem. People get into so much trouble. What is consumerism and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing? We need to flip the script and start investing and investing and investing and stop with the nonsense of oh, my credit card rate went down and mortgages are now down. Listen, if you could afford a house, you could afford a house. That's it. But this continual, just want to borrow, not save and invest, that's what's going to put people into a huge grind. And who cares if your high yield savings rate, right, is dropping or is going up? Who cares? We want to put just emergency funds in there just for emergency. You're not going to get rich off a high yield savings account. You're going to get rich after you put your emergency fund in your high yield savings account, putting money within the market and watching it grow. Guys, you're seeing it. The gap is increasing. You've got to be on the right side of things. You have to be on the side of where the wealthy people are, which is on owning stocks. That is the only way, guys, to really build wealth. Of course, real estate as well, but not just buying your own personal property. People build wealth on real estate either by buying rates, right? They buy rates because they invest in the market, or they buy multiple properties and they rent it out to bring in some type of passive income. That's the way to build wealth. So this whole Fed rate's going down. Yes, I could borrow things for cheaper. That's great for corporations, but guess what? The corporations are extremely excited due to the fact that the rates are dropping and they're borrowing more to get more capital, to reinvest and to build their business. If you are an owner of that company, you are enjoying the benefits of it and you're not doing all that borrowing and doing all of that. Wealth, guys, wealth comes from asset ownership. Never forget that.
When you're spending a lot of money on interest costs, you're not spending it on things that are actually useful and productive. They're able to deploy that money and keep it for internal investment, capital expenditure, hiring.
But there are downsides. This process tends to lead to higher wealth inequality.
The Fed's easing cycle could unintentionally widen the generational wealth gap, lifting the net worth of retirees, baby boomers, while the 20-somethings and the 30-somethings who depend more on their wages and capital gains not benefiting as much.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I'm saying. The wealth gap is there. We know the wealth gap, but people just need to start investing in assets and stocks, man. The S&P 500, guys, ETF funds, that's all you have to do. Stop just thinking about working on a 9-to-5, and that's the only way to build wealth. And she mentioned, in the 20s, and, they depend on wages. Well, of course, that's the only source of income you have at that time. But with consistency and building a habit of saving and investing, continuously living on less than what you make, by the time you hit retirement age, your account is going to blow up. If you continuously just put money in the market, dollar cost averaging, you're going to blow up. Your portfolio is going to blow up. You are riding the wave. And if you continue to ride the wave and you put money in, it's just going to magnify. That is the way it works. I mean, there is no other way to explain it, man. In my 20s, guys, all I did was put like a company 401k match. I didn't put a lot. It was like 2%, 3%. In my 30s, next year, I got like 50, 60 grand on my account. And it wasn't a lot of work. Now, if I would have put even more money within my account, not just 2%, a whole lot more than that, who wouldn't have known what my account would be? But that's the whole point. It made me realize investing is the way to get me out of this 9-to-5 grind and not continuously having to work and having, everyone else get rich while I'm here just saving in a high yield savings account and just spending and not being responsible. We just need to shift our mindset. Once you shift your mindset, guys, that's what's going to get you to build wealth. So yeah, the Fed rates, everyone's watching it, wants to know what's going on. Don't worry about that. Just keep on saving and investing. I mean, of course, it's important if you want to buy a house, you want to wait for a perfect time to buy a house and you have the down payment for it, then okay, that's great. But just don't make it seem like buying a house is the way to build wealth. It is not. Buying a house is just a lifestyle choice. That's it. And I understand for most people, and I know what it's like because my parents, majority of their wealth came from home ownership. They bought a home in the 80s. They sold it in the mid-90s. They freaking bought it for I think my mom told me in Jersey, she paid $30,000. They sold for $300,000. Awesome. They got all that money, came to Florida, and that money allowed them, right, to retire and live comfortably. But imagine they were saving and investing, and that whole buying a home and then 10, 15, 20 years from now, you could sell it and next thing you know, you could just, you're super rich. That's not the case. It depends on market conditions, but regardless of the point is you just have to understand that home ownership is not the only true way to build wealth. Putting money in the market, that is the way.
We see that it does not benefit everyone equally. If you are an Apple or any great big corporate borrower, you will see a difference from a 1/4% rate cut because you've got the best borrowing costs on planet Earth, basically. So you will see that benefit. But when it comes to things like automobile loans and credit card rates and even mortgages, it takes longer for them to filter through, and it takes more of them to make a real material difference in what it costs for average American working men and women to borrow.
There goes the borrowing, the borrowing, the borrowing. Now I understand, man. I mean, I know it just touches a nerve because I know there's people out there that's all they do. They just live life on the decisions they make is whether they get approved for a loan or not, and whether their interest rate is advantageous. Don't get me wrong, I own a home and I got my rate at 2.75 during COVID, and that was awesome. But I'll tell you this, I got my mortgage simply due to the fact of I had enough money for a down payment. It was a house that I liked, and the payment was something I could afford. I wasn't just trying to get a house that I couldn't afford, and next thing you know, because the interest rates go down a bit more, yes, I could afford it. That's not the case. That's why so many people right now are house poor. They think they could afford something because it's like, hey, I'm getting approved for a certain amount of money. I could just go up to a max, and next thing you know, you're house poor. There's a lot of decisions to be made. You want to keep your housing costs as low as possible. That way you can continue to enjoy a lifestyle with saving and investing. I'm saying once again, guys, saving and investing is a way to get you out of it. But so many people now are house poor and they get trapped in a house or trapped in a car payment where now it's like, yo, they have no money to save, no money to invest. They're house poor, then they're struggling, and they thought this was the American dream when in reality, it never was the American dream. Having a house, as I said once again, is a lifestyle choice. It's not a wealth building choice, right? It really isn't. For some people it is. I get it. For some people it is. But that money is locked up until you sell it. And when you sell it, then what, right? When it comes to stocks, S&P 500, having an ETF fund or mutual funds, that's not the case, right? You could take that money out. Yeah, you pay taxes and whatnot, but that's your money. Your money. You have to sell your house, your primary residence, to have money. No, you can sell your stocks and your mutual funds, your ETFs, all that good stuff. That right there is your money.
Younger households are hurt most by a reduction in interest rates. That's because they own the smallest share of financial assets.
What happens when the Fed overnight rate come down? We ultimately start earning less money on cash, which makes it less attractive versus other investments. So it's really natural to think about, where do we want to reallocate that capital?
Take, for example, real estate.
In a lot of markets, real estate has become, and in some cases, unaffordable.
Qualifying for a mortgage today requires a 6-figure household income in most of the US. That's far above the median household income. The income requirements are higher if the buyer doesn't have a 20% down payment ready. Compare this to conditions from 2006. The median household brought in around $58,000 that year. They needed $54,000 to qualify for a mortgage.
Years of zero rates and quantitative easing drove housing prices far faster than incomes. It rewards older and cash-rich households, but it locks younger buyers out.
When compared to real estate, stocks generally require less capital and deliver higher returns over the long run.
Real estate money can be a little harder to place. I would argue that if you really want to reap the full benefit of real estate ownership, you're doing it in private markets. And that is generally a little harder for people with smaller portfolios to get into.
For these reasons, many Americans are flocking into equities like stocks.
That's what everyone needs to do, really, is to flock into stocks. And you saw that disparity, right? How much home ownership appreciated compared to equities, right? And stocks. It's a huge disparity. Right now, it's hard to get into a home. And rather than trying to force yourself to get in there, like what they say, trying to force a circle into a square peg, just leave that alone, man. Just leave that alone. Just put money to the side to save for a down payment. But at the same time, just stop dumping money into your retirement account, into your brokerage account, just Roth IRA, everything. Just dump your money in there. Because when it's all said and done, guys, think about it. If you live a majority of life in an apartment, but you know within like the age of 50, 55, you never have to work again. You're set because you saved so much money and you put your money in the market, you invested and you did all the right things, and you're riding the wave of everyone, taking advantage of the Fed rates being dropped and all these companies is blowing up, especially like Apple. Apple, man, listen, Apple's crazy. I'm actually investing in S&P 500. We know the Magnificent Seven. Apple is about to have a market capital of like $4 trillion, and Nvidia is like damn near up to $6 trillion. It's insane. And guess what? I invest in those companies, so it's building my wealth. So not having a home, okay, man, is not going to ruin you. Some many people just trying to force themselves into a home. It's not going to ruin you. What's going to help you is having your money, a nice portfolio within stocks, equities, mutual funds, and ETFs. That's the way, guys, we're going to build wealth. Drop a comment down below, guys, and hit the like and subscribe, and let me know what were the things in your life that made you it clicked. It made you realize, yo, this money game that I'm playing is completely wrong. Putting money into stocks, and that is just the way you're going to build wealth. And I'm not talking about individual stocks. I'm talking about like index funds, like especially something that tracks the S&P 500. But that is the game right there. Because you're working, putting all your time in for just money doesn't work anymore. You got to put your money in the market, because the money in the market will work harder than you 24/7. And truthfully, your money can outlast you if you keep it in the market. While you're chilling, coasting, going on vacation, relaxing, your money is working and building, and it gets to a point, guys, where the money you're making from all the investments you made is more than any other annual pay you got in any other job, in any job that you receive. Well, guys, thanks for watching. Hit the like once again and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Peace.